Hey folks, how's it going? For the past few episodes, I've been trying this new thing where I don't come out and just say what I thought about the episode right at the start. I ask a question, like, did this live up to the previous episode in the case of The Well? Was this a worthy prequel, or was this better than Space Babies? Things like that. I've been trying that out. But in this case, I think I'm just going to blurt it out right at the beginning because I thought this was a beautiful episode. A series best for Ncuti Gatwa. It was unique and just felt very different from the types of stories that Doctor Who usually tells, but it still retained the core elements that made it harmonize with the rest of the series. A quietly poetic story about kinship, forgiveness, and the power of stories themselves. This episode just left me with a warm glow. It wasn't perfect, and I will get into some of the nitpicks I had, but for now, let's start with the cast. Ncuti Gatwa continues to deliver as the charismatic, emotional Doctor this season. He really feels like he's sunk into the role at this point, and he knows who the Doctor is and what he cares about. His empathy is on full display in this story, as he passionately entreats the Barber to give up on revenge and save the people in his ship and himself. The Doctor cares about everyone and always tries to save them, even the villains. And this episode allows Ncuti Gatwa to showcase his kindness and passionate pursuit of the saving of lost souls. Belinda is also reliably solid in this story once again. She's relegated to the sideline for a good portion of the story, but she also has a very nice vignette. When the Doctor tells her story about the woman in the hospital, Belinda gives a very grounded, underplayed performance in these scenes, making her feel like a real person, and also showing that the character cares more about helping others than being rewarded for it, and actually doesn't quite know how to handle being thanked, which is probably a common occurrence for nurses and other underappreciated workers. As for the guest cast, everyone here is solid. Arian Bakare as the Barber is great at playing a villain who is not all they seem, as well as being not completely evil. His energy is sinister and snake-like, but you can see a deep hurt just behind his eyes in every scene, hinting at the betrayal that he never got over, that's driving his actions now. He has incredibly expressive eyes, and a burning passion just beneath the surface. He looks like he could burst into tears, fly into a rage, or plant a big passionate kiss on whoever he's talking to at any second. Abena also holds the anger and the hurt just behind the eyes, hinting at the secret connection she has with the Doctor. There's a lot of really intense eye acting in this story, which fits with the theme of everyone having a story driving them from within. Momo, the Doctor's friend, doesn't get a ton to do, but the actor has a friendly gentleness about him, which makes me understand how he could become such good friends with the Doctor. He looks genuinely heartbroken when the Doctor flips out on him. The three other actors do fine with the lines they have, just enough for the viewers to root for them and hope that they make it home safely. Now let's move on to the production and effects. The market scenes in Nigeria give the episode a lovely pop of vibrant color and authenticity. These types of shoots really help to give the show a globe-trotting, limitless feel. The robotic spider is only seen in a few shots, but it is pretty cool to look at when we do see it. The combination of futuristic robotic technology and traditional African art, like the long African mask seen on the spider and mirrored in the Barber's shears, is a great creative touch that tells the story of the engine's creator through its design. The majority of the episode only occurs within the barbershop itself, giving this story a bottle episode or almost stage play type of feel. Excursions outside of it are relegated to animated sequences, or the scenes of Belinda in the hospital, to break things up a bit. The barbershop itself is a great piece of set design, with lots of little details scattered throughout to make it feel lived in. And the animations are really cool, too. They have a nice, folksy, woodblock print feel to them, playing off of the art and culture of the people telling the stories. I'm totally digging Doctor Who's foray into 2D animation this season. It's making this season feel extra special and memorable. The hair growing effect is slightly comical, but in that charming Doctor Who way, in a not that scary episode, so it's all good. But now let's dig into the story. The cold open sets the tone well, with what else? A man telling a story. As I just mentioned, the animation here is lovely, and draws the viewer in with its harrowing tale and sudden mysterious appearance of the Doctor. It makes us question how he knows the storyteller, and how this story will tie into the main plot. The scene where the Doctor and Belinda commiserate over the comfort and safety they feel when they're surrounded by others that look like them just feels incredibly authentic, and really strengthens the bond these characters have. When they hugged, it felt completely genuine, and cemented my belief in their relationship. These two truly feel like they care about and relate to one another, in a way that the Doctor-companion relationship hasn't quite felt for a while now. It reminds me more of the pairings between the 10th Doctor and Donna, or the 12th Doctor and Clara. Genuine, deeply connected best friends for life, rather than a mentor-mentee relationship. I find the idea of the Doctor wanting to find a safe space now that he's regenerated into a black man to be a fascinating concept.
It's the first time I've had this black body. Some parts of the earth I'm now treated differently. But here, in Africa, in that barbershop, I'm accepted. I'm able to forget.
I'm glad they're actually addressing the repercussions of the Doctor's change of race within the reality of the show. I think it makes the show, and the character of the Doctor himself, feel more realistic and relatable. Racism, and the brutality that accompanies it, is sadly a constant reoccurrence throughout human history, up through the present day. And having a historically white character who adventures through our past and future not notice a difference in how he was treated once he became a black person for the first time would be a disingenuous lie, as well as making the series feel more slight and false. Having the Doctor actually grapple with the difference in how people treat him based on the color of his skin, something he may have intellectually understood but never personally experienced, and then be so affected by that he actually takes action to make himself feel safe and accepted again, is a brilliant way to characterize the Doctor. It makes him feel like he's actually growing and evolving, being changed by this experience on a deep level. I feel like I'm seeing Ncuti Gatwa's character arc start to take shape for the first time, and that's exciting. It perfectly resonates back to the ending of Dot and Bubble, when the Doctor's shocked to realize the people he's trying to save won't listen to him simply because he's black. It ties back to his comments made in Lux, noting that it's safer for him and Belinda to be out at night in 50s America. These moments are no longer isolated incidents, but part of a thread for this Doctor, showing him learning firsthand how differently people treat you based on their prejudices in a way he's never experienced before. The Doctor is a 60-plus-year-old fictional character in the real world. He's gone on several journeys of self-discovery where he's had to reconfirm why he's the Doctor, should he be the Doctor, is he the Doctor anymore? He's had romances, tragic losses, moments of despair, moments of redemption, megalomania, memory loss, having a clone, being the actual villain, you name it. But this feels like genuinely fresh ground to explore. A big theme of the series is of empathy for others and a dismissal of prejudice. And what better way to reinforce that theme and tell another story within it than to have your main character experience the world through new eyes, contained within a body that has historically experienced prejudice, in order to create a deeper empathy and understanding within the main character themselves. For all the flaws of the past few seasons, and there have been many, I must say, I'm impressed with how they've handled the story arc so far. It's been naturalistic and graceful, where it could have been hokey and over the top, like a preachy after-school special or something. Instead, all the examples so far have been powerful, generally well-received moments. Or in the case of this story, the beating heart that feels it. As I've said in the past, I love it when Doctor Who has social commentary that's woven into the fabric of the story, using science fiction as an expressionistic lens through which to explore a certain facet of our lived experience, especially in relation to society and culture. This story expertly weaves several threads together, pulling from traditional African culture, mythology, literary theory, and science fiction to create a symbolism-rich tale about tales, and the power they have to enrich our lives. I'm not an expert on any of this stuff, but I can tell that the guy who wrote this is. It has the flavor of somebody who's clearly a literature and mythology buff, referencing everything from Ernest Hemingway's six-word story to the African god of stories themselves, Anansi. It gives the story a richness and texture, tying the villain and his plot to the ancient lore of humanity. It adds a sort of mystique to the proceedings, playing off of our almost primal suspicions and awe of ancient legends from far before our time. So back to the story now. After Belinda and the Doctor's lovely TARDIS scene, the Doctor heads off to Momo's palace, his safe haven. I love how he seems to know everyone on the streets as he heads in, showing that it's not just Momo's place, but the people and culture of the entire area that makes the Doctor feel at home. He's clearly become a familiar, welcome regular in the area. The story takes a dark turn as the Doctor discovers the missing posters for Momo and the other men. He enters the barbershop and is instantly trapped with the other people. Momo greets him, but in a way where he was very clearly expecting and hoping for the Doctor to show up. And then, the barber reveals himself. I like the concept of this villain. It's sort of an inversion of the god-related stories we've received so far this era, the other enemies being all-powerful, hedonistic, lunatic gods. Instead, we have a mortal, starting at the bottom and having to claw his way up. learning and growing in power until he can accomplish his revenge and actually kill the gods. It's always interesting to have a villain who has to scrap and strategize as much as the protagonist, rather than just being all-powerful. It makes them a more interesting and in some ways impressive enemy for the Doctor to face off against. Rather than being a trite, uncaring monster like the gods the Doctor's encountered, this villain cares too much and is lashing out because of how deeply he was wounded by these uncaring deities. He has a bit of God the Gore Butcher about him in that respect. The Doctor doesn't want to play ball, so another one of the men sits in to tell a story. I like how this story frames music as a living thing, passed down generation to generation, until modern technology allowed us to package time, as he puts it. This story said a lot in a few words, which is the exact opposite of the long-winded rambling I just subjected you to. When they finally get the Doctor into the barber chair to tell his story, we get another satisfying little vignette about a day when Belinda saved a woman's life. The sequence was simple but effective, and made me like the character even more. I liked the moment where the Doctor bursts out laughing after the barber tells the lie about how he's all the gods of stories from the past. It makes total sense that the Doctor would know these other deities and be able to sniff out a fraud instantly. This moment also showed the first crack in the barber's facade as he cowers away, clearly embarrassed, and needs to be bigged up again by his woman, Abena. It's a very humanizing moment that hints at the damaged and not completely confident man behind the mask. However, I didn't really get the moment where the Doctor flipped out on Momo and basically ended their friendship over his supposed betrayal. It's not like Momo had any way to warn the Doctor before he came in, and the door instantly shut behind him as soon as he entered. And it just makes sense that Momo would be hoping for his superpowered alien friend to show up to save them from the superpowered alien villain that's holding them prisoner. Honestly, I feel like the Doctor overreacted big time here. It feels like they had this scene just to goose up the drama and reinforce the feeling of the Doctor's safe space being violated. I get that, but it just feels a bit manufactured. Like the Doctor became super melodramatic for a few minutes just to hammer the point home. Anyways, next we move on to the Doctor's recognition of Abena as the daughter of the African god Anansi. The Doctor won her hand in marriage in a bet they tried to lose, and they left without Abena. Abena feels abandoned and betrayed, which is why she's helping the barber. This is a pretty interesting idea of a scorned companion of sorts from the past coming back for revenge, and it gets even more interesting when the camera pans to reveal the fugitive Doctor. It's good to see Jo Martin again, even if it is once again one of these all too fleeting brief moments. It's just good to see her acknowledged and integrated into the series in the post-Whittaker era. Hopefully she'll get even more screen time in the near future. I'm thinking spin-off miniseries. Anyways, she seems pretty blunt and dismissive to this woman, just telling her she was too busy essentially, which I guess is par for the course with this Doctor. The truth-talking from the Doctor and Belinda, combined with the reveal that the barber has lied to her and is actually planning on murdering her father, is enough to convince Abena to switch sides. She has the Doctor sit for a hair braiding and tells a story of her own. We're treated to another lovely animated vignette about slaves escaping to freedom by passing secret maps to each other through the patterns they braid into each other's hair. Lo and behold, Abena gifts the Doctor with the very map she described in her story. This is a very clever and concise way to tie all of the story threads together, even going so far as to metaphorically represent this moment visually, through the Doctor's hair literally being woven together to bring us to the finale. The Doctor causes a distraction and escapes into the bowels of the ship with Belinda, then uses the map on his head to find his way to the story engine itself. The story engine is a gorgeously realized prop. The faces covering it look ancient and suggest some sort of dark magic. They poke at it for a bit before the barber shows up and stops them. This is where the episode loses me a little bit, because essentially the barber just said, "The engine is working perfectly," and then the Doctor says, "Nuh-uh, I control the engine now, you lose." And then we get, yet again, a montage of past Doctors' faces flashing on a bunch of screens. I know it works in the context of the story, but I just gotta say, we've done that a few too many times now. There's too many episodes where the Doctor connects to something and then we get all the other Doctors from the past and the overload happens. It's the finale of Jodie Whittaker's one season of The Timeless Child. That's how she gets out of this. She blasts with the stories. So I just feel like that's a little bit overused, and it's a little bit of a crush to keep leaning on the past nostalgia to kind of like juice up certain moments. But that's not even the main problem I have with the scene. The main problem I had was just, I get what they're saying here. The Doctor's so old and has so many exciting stories that he could overload the story machine, but it's just a little anticlimactic. You know, it feels a little bit like we're being told instead of shown what happens at the end here. Regardless, I do still really like the scene between the Doctor and the barber, this final confrontational scene, where the Doctor convinces the barber to release his prisoners before the engine glows, and then even convinces the villain himself to escape and live. It's a heartwarming everybody lives moment that the Doctor earns through his genuine pleas to this person.
I want you to live long enough to write it. Don't let this be how your story ends.
Side note, Mrs. Flood spotted again, this time in Belinda's hospital story. I guess that confirms that she's lived near Belinda for a while now. Also, I did recognize the little girl in the alley as Poppy, captain of the infamous Space Babies. The credits confirmed it as well. Are the Space Babies also going to make a major return in Season 2? Are they somehow allies with Mrs. Flood? Is their spaceship still powered by human excrement? A truly troubling proposition. The story ends on a happy note for everyone. There are no deaths and hardly even any violence in this story. Just some light tussling, a few near-death escapes, and an exploding robot spider. It's an entertaining series of vignette stories, intertwined with a character-centric story of betrayal and redemption, identity and safety, brotherhood and forgiveness. It's rich in literary and mythological references, African cultural touchstones, and a dash of philosophical musings on the nature of art and stories. I feel like this is just a really great feel-good episode. A nice one to put on when you just want to hang out with the Doctor in a low-stakes drama and hear some good stories featuring some cool animation. I think this is yet another one of Ncuti's best for his era. I dug it. I give The Story in the Engine an A-. And that's it. That is the end of my review. This season has been surprisingly solid so far, with no bad episodes. Only good episodes, only good to great so far. It hasn't been perfect, every episode I've had my nitpicks, I've graded them, one got a C+ even, but even that C+ I feel like was a really good C+ story. I don't think there's been a single bad story this season. This is unquestionably a much stronger outing for Ncuti than his first season. If they can stick the landing in the next 3 weeks, this will probably end up being one of my top tier favorite Doctor Who seasons. Like in the upper half for sure. I don't know where it would rank, but it's feeling like a really strong new entry into the modern Doctor Who rankings, in my opinion. So, fingers crossed they stick landing. So far it's been a great season. I'm really digging it. I'm really enjoying it. But yeah, that's it. If you liked what you saw here, please like and subscribe to this channel. I'm doing reviews every week. This one came out a little bit later. Sorry, I was busy with life things, but we're back on track here. It's out, and the next one's coming out real fast. I'm trying to get them both out, so we're back on track before the finale comes out. So look forward to that next review, the Interstellar Song Contest, coming out very, very shortly after this one comes out, all right? But that's it. That's all I got to say. Thanks for watching, and until next time, Kay, signing out.